This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Bates versus Miller and the mashed egg. Mr. Bates, from the documents you filed with this court, it's my understanding that you are suing Miss Miller and her restaurant for injuries you sustained when you made a delivery to her restaurant. You're asking this court to award you $25,000 for past medicals, $25,000 for future medicals, $25,000 for lost wages, $75,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $150,000. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And Ms. Miller, your position from the documents that you filed with this court is that Mr. Bates is responsible for his own injuries. Had he acted responsibly, he would not be here today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then let's get into the legal sauce. Now, Mr. Bates, you're a delivery guy, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me about your delivery business.
Well, I'm an independent delivery driver. I've been doing this about 10 years now. I own my own truck and business. There's a picture of my truck right there, if you can see it. Well, I've been delivering to the mashed egg now for almost as long as I had the business, about 10 years, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller, tell me about the mashed egg.
Well, the mashed egg is a breakfast joint. We specialize in egg dishes. We have, I think, 55 right now on the menu. We have...
How long have you been operating this business?
My husband and I started this business 10 years ago. He always loved to cook, and I've been cooking since I was 5 years old when my mama taught me. When she showed me how to crack an egg, I was fascinated. And so I've been a fan of eggs ever since.
So how did this happen?
On the night in question, I pull up as usual, and I notice there's no one there. As I'm going into the cooler with the eggs, the refrigerator, I slip on some cardboard right on the inside of the door. Now, as I slip, I do this twist, and I hear this just gut-wrenching snap. And as I hear that snap, I just start falling because I can't hold myself up anymore. So as I'm falling back, I hit the ground on my back, my head pops off on the concrete, and it just knocks me out like a cartoon character. I'm seeing stars everywhere. And right as that happens, the lights go out because they're set on a timer.
So then what did you do?
Well, I fought myself to figure out where I was, and I finally found the door. I crawl over to it, and I start grabbing racks, and I just start pulling myself up and trying to hold myself up on my good leg as best I can when I reach out for the handle and shake it, and it doesn't open.
So you were locked in this refrigerator?
For 5 hours, Your Honor. 5 hours I was in there.
That is some folks' worst nightmare.
No idea,
to be locked
Your
in a
Honor.
refrigerator.
It took its toll on me.
Well, you've submitted to this court medical bills just from the past of $25,000. What were your injuries?
Well, I have a frostbite. I got a little on the tip of both my ears, as you can see, on my face, on the tip of my nose. I broke my ankle. I got nerve damage in my 4th and 5th fingers. I got a concussion.
Miss Miller, when is the first time you heard of this incident?
I was getting ready to come into the restaurant, and I got the phone call about 5 a.m. But he's not supposed to be in the refrigerator by himself. We have a long-standing policy, which he is well aware of. It's a buddy system. He's used it many times.
Your Honor, the buddy system...
Did you know that you weren't supposed to be in there by yourself?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I don't have a choice to be in there by myself because the buddy wasn't there. I'm a delivery driver. I have 42 routes. I can't stop and wait for someone to show up or not.
This is not my fault.
It is your fault. You're the business owner. You can crack an egg, but you can't run a business.
Miss Miller, explain the buddy system for me.
The buddy system is someone going in the refrigerator alone has to have someone, A, stand by the door or be in the refrigerator with them. That's a long-standing policy. You've even used it.
Yes,
it's
I've
a
used it
buddy
because
system.
they were there.
Talk to me.
You can't say it's a long-standing policy.
Talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
So if Mr. Bates had followed the buddy system as you all had asked him to do,
Yes.
he would not have been locked in your cooler.
Correct.
And that's why you think this is not your fault.
Exactly.
Why couldn't you wait for the buddy system?
Your Honor, I had plenty of, like I said, this is my busiest night. It was a Thursday night. I had 42 deliveries. I don't have the luxury to wait. That's basically saying not just me to wait on her, but all of my clients to wait on me.
But this couldn't have been the first time that you had a delay in 10 years of deliveries,
It was
right?
a handful of times, but this is the first time I've dealt with the handle. Because this isn't a question of the buddy system. This is a question of the handle locking, because it's not supposed to lock.
So why wasn't the handle working, Miss Miller?
I take care of the maintenance, and we regularly check that refrigerator.
Not good enough.
Because it's a critical part of my business. In fact, I brought a receipt so that the court could see the most recent service.
So this is your receipt.
Yes.
Consulting fee $150, refrigerator latch repair $375 for a total of $525. So you repaired this refrigerator latch?
Yes, we did.
So why wasn't it working that day?
I don't know why it wasn't working that day. It was not working correctly before it was repaired. And we depend on that refrigerator, and we depend on our deliveries.
And deliveries show up on time.
Mr. Bates.
Yes, Your Honor.
You've asked this court to award you $25,000 for your past medicals and an additional $25,000 for future medicals. I want to understand your injuries. Now, you've clearly got some frostbite on your nose and ears, and you damaged a couple of fingers and broke an ankle.
Yes, Your Honor. I got my 4th and 5th digits. I have nerve damage, so I can no longer use this hand properly. I have to have a skin graft to have my face fixed because of all this damage. All of this stuff is still coming, and it's taken out of my life savings. I had all this money saved up, 2 years, I'm gonna retire. That's all gone. It's like whiskey slipping through my fingers. She took all of that away from me because she didn't hold up her end of the bargain. She's a business owner. She has a responsibility to provide a safe working environment.
Well, clearly this is big for you. I understand that.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're asking this court to give you $75,000 in an award for pain and suffering. I understand that. Ms. Miller, you see this has had a great impact on Mr. Bates, right?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And you still say this is not your fault? He's trapped in your cooler for 5 hours.
Your Honor, there is an alarm in the cooler. In the refrigerator, it alerts us in the restaurant, the police, and the fire department if you pull it. Now...
That's the alarm?
Yes. And Mr. Bates has been in and out of that refrigerator hundreds of times. He knows every inch, and it's right by...
I know every inch of your cooler.
It's right by where you put the eggs.
Why didn't you sound the alarm?
I didn't know the alarm was there, Your Honor. I'm in hundreds of coolers a week. I go in, I drop my merchandise, I get out. I don't inspect in there. Moreover, the lights were out. I was dazed. How am I supposed to find the alarm and all of this stuff? My only goal was to get on my feet and get out of there.
In order to understand the nature of your injuries, this court has consulted Dr. Seacrest Sutherland. She's an emergency room physician. Sheriff, will you get Dr. Sutherland?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good day, Dr. Sutherland. Introduce yourself to the court.
My name is Seacrest Sutherland. I'm an emergency medicine physician. I'm a medical doctor.
Doctor, can you explain the various levels of frostbite?
Yes, sir. Frostbite severity is determined by how deep the freeze penetrates. Superficial frostbite, such as in this photo, affects the skin and subcutaneous tissues. That skin will fall off, but underneath is granulation tissue that comes back in. And this person can reasonably recover, although pain and sensation issues will likely occur. And the next photo we have is a really severe case of frostbite. Here it's gotten the muscles, the ligaments and tendons, the nerves, blood vessels, and even the bone. This dead tissue auto-amputates, presuming it doesn't get infected. If it does get infected, a surgeon will have to cut it off with a scalpel.
In this case, Mr. Bates has frostbite on his ears, on his nose, and it even damaged a couple of his fingers. What levels of frostbite are those?
This is more than superficial frostbite, especially with the nerve damage of the fingers.
Is he going to get full use of that hand back?
Doubtful.
What about his nose and his ears? Will they heal?
The black tissue will fall off, and whatever tissue is underneath that is going to be the remainder of his nose and ears.
Thank you, doctor. We appreciate you. You're released.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Miller, you see, this is a big deal for Mr. Bates.
Yes.
This happened in your restaurant, in your cooler. Shouldn't this be your fault?
No, Your Honor, because Mr. Bates was not supposed to be there.
You didn't have your man in place. That's why I was there. I have a job to do, too. You're not the only one. We both have a business, lady.
Talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. She has a business she needed to take care of, and she failed. She can go on about her alarm, but I didn't know about the alarm.
Mr. Bates, I see that you have brought a witness with you.
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
Sir, you are Lionel Gonzalez?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right, if you would stand and come to the podium. What's your relationship to mashed egg?
I am a former server at the Mashed Egg.
And what do you have to tell me about the mashed egg today?
Well, I had a similar incident happen to me at the Mashed Egg. I was in the kitchen, I was going back to put in an order, I had a plate in my hand, and I slipped on grease that had been left out on the floor. I fell back, I landed on my head, I landed on my back. I had a concussion, and I'm still wearing a neck brace that's affected me personally.
You've submitted to this court a video of your actual fall. I want you to cross over to the plasma screen and walk us through it. So tell me what we're looking at.
You're gonna see me come through this way, right here, heading to the sink to put that plate in there. I stepped on that grease puddle, my foot went up in the air, I landed on my head, and I was in instant pain.
Sir, you can return to the podium. Some bad things happening there in the back, Miss Miller.
Your Honor, I don't know what this video has to do with Mr. Bates. It was unfortunate.
Well, you've got good instincts. I mean, I'm glad that you submitted that video, but slipping outside in the kitchen doesn't really tell us whether you're responsible for what happens inside the cooler. But it does inform me that your place may have been chaotic at this time. Mr. Bates.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's going through your mind right now?
I'm just wondering if she's going to keep her employees alive.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty harsh, isn't it?
She was pretty harsh to me with what happened to me. She has absolutely no caring about me. All she cares about is her restaurant. She didn't care about the whole business. All she cares about is what she knows, cooking and cracking eggs. She doesn't understand what it takes to run an actual business. These are living machines. These are people and business working hand in hand. And if you have people who aren't there, who don't do their job, who don't show up, accidents happen. And her answer to everything, it's not my fault. That's not an adult answer, Your Honor. She wants to be a business owner. She wants to play.
Mr. Bates,
yes,
talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You got to keep in your mind that had you followed her systems, you probably wouldn't be hurt.
Exactly.
Your Honor, if I followed her system, I would never have made the delivery. How can I follow a system that isn't there?
Well, maybe soured eggs and soured milk is better than $50,000 in medical expenses.
Yeah.
Is the right answer for me to neglect my job? Because my job was to deliver those items, and her responsibility was to have, if she wants to have a buddy system, then that buddy needs to be there. Like I said, I was in there for 5 hours. Where was this buddy for 5 hours?
Folks, I think I've heard what I need to hear. I'm ready to render my decision. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Mr. Bates, you've got to prove 3 things. You've got to prove that Miss Miller and the mashed egg did something wrong, and that their wrong caused your injuries. Your injuries are undisputed. You've put up enough evidence to show that you already spent $25,000 on your medicals. You're going to need additional surgeries for that additional $25,000 that you're asking this court to award you. You've put up evidence that the door did not work when you tried to get out, that the lights went out, and that you were left in this cooler for 5 hours suffering frostbite, terrible injuries, and breaking your ankle. Ms. Miller, you believe that this incident is his fault if he had only employed your safety systems. Those safety systems are the buddy system, and if he had hit the alarm, he would not have been in there 5 hours.
Exactly.
So often in personal injury cases, there are all these moving parts, but many times my determination is on one particular fact that tilts the scale as to whether this is your fault and whether you win or lose. That one fact is the door. When I first heard the evidence, I thought I was going to find for Miss Miller because you didn't hit the alarm, but when you smack your head and it's dark, you're dazed, your ankle's broken, there's no way you could do that.
Yes.
The door would have solved this whole problem if it had been working, and that's something that you had total control of. Because of that, I find that you have proven that the mashed egg and Miss Miller are wrong, and that their wrong caused all of your injuries. And because of that, I'm going to award you $25,000 for your past medical expenses, $25,000 for your future medical expenses, $25,000 for your lost wages, and $75,000 for your pain and suffering, for a total award of $150,000.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Gary Martin Hayes has to say.
Mr. Bates was on the defendant's premises to deliver food, so the restaurant owed him a duty to provide a safe environment and to warn him of potential dangers. Ms. Miller made the claim that their buddy system would have helped, but the restaurant failed to have a properly functioning door. And that is what kept Mr. Bates stuck in the cooler, which resulted in his injuries.
Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Richardson versus Hickman. Mr. and Mrs. Richardson, it's my understanding that you all are suing Mr. Hickman for injury, severe shoulder injury that you sustained when you slipped on peanuts at his restaurant. You're asking this court to award you $125,000 for medical expenses, $200,000 for pain and suffering, and a total award of $325,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Hickman, you believe she slipped on peanuts that were there. She should have known they were there, and it's not your fault, right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Why did y'all choose this restaurant?
Well, Your Honor, I retired after 30 years in the school system.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So 30 years, thank you. So after 30 years being with children, I was finally glad to be over with the school system, so I decided to have a retirement party. I was going to invite some friends and family and co-workers to this place, and I chose this restaurant because it was a little on the casual side, and some of my friends are not very upscale. You know, they like a little casual atmosphere.
Now, folks have different kinds of retirement parties. In fact, the sheriffs that used to take care of me many years ago, when these older gentlemen and women would have a party, some of them would have the fun party, some of them would have the formal sit-down.
Right.
Which one was yours? Was it fun or formal?
Mine was a fun party because I had some diversified friends, so I figured, let's go to this restaurant. I heard the food was great, but when I walked in and looked at it, you know, there was a few peanut shells. I just thought they didn't sweep up that day.
So peanut shells on the floor, Mr. Hickman, is that what happens at your place?
Yeah, it's a staple of our place. It's part of the fun atmosphere that we have. It's you know, my restaurant, and my dad gave it to me. In 16 years, we've always had peanut shells on the ground. It's just a fun thing where the patrons eat the peanuts and then throw the shells.
So they eat the peanuts and then they throw them on the floor. Now,
Correct.
What happens with the shells?
The shells are just on the ground and we walk on them, but it's just part of the country theme.
So it's part of the shtick of your restaurant.
Correct.
And I imagine it's pretty popular. That's kind of novel.
People come just for that. And I also have 790 positive reviews you can see here.
Sheriff Matt, if you'll get those reviews for me.
790
I want to take a peek at them.
reviews, I'm proud to say.
Let's see
People
what
from
the
all
folks...
all ages.
What the folks say here. Well, you got one here that says, only house where throwing stuff on the floor won't get you grounded. Then another one says, be a boss, crack, eat, toss. Sounds like a fun place.
What we do.
And then the final one says, real cowboys drop their nuts on the floor. I'm gonna stop reading these right now, okay? But you got a fun place. People come there to have fun.
Absolutely, it's a packed crowd every night of the week.
And part of the fun is throwing these nuts on the floor, drinking beer, just kind of real laid
Having a
back.
great time. It adds to the country atmosphere.
And that's what you all had anticipated the retirement party would be, right?
Well, I didn't anticipate it to be that much peanuts on the floor. When I went to tour the place, it was only a few shells on the floor.
So you didn't know that people throw
No, I did
shells
not.
on the floor?
I did not.
Look at this. This is a
was
shot
at
of the floor in the restaurant.
At my party, right. That wasn't like that the day I went on a tour.
Well, y'all must have had either a lot of elephants or a lot of people that like peanuts.
It was a
'cause
lot of peanuts.
That's a lot of peanuts. So tell me how you got injured.
So
not true.
We're having fun, we're drinking, we're eating, and I didn't know that the restaurant was known for the nuts. I thought it was known for the food. So we're eating, having a good time, we're laughing and drinking. So one of his waitresses walks over to me and said, well, you're retired. Why don't you start a conga line? You know, I'm a party person.
love 'em.
I like to dance, which, as you can see there, I'm a dancer. So I love dancing. I had no problem with dancing, so I got up. As soon
Now,
as
those can get pretty rowdy, right?
Yes, as soon as I stepped on the
depending on how
floor.
much beer you've had, you know?
Well, I didn't have any beer.
Okay.
So as soon as I stepped on the floor, bam. I mean, I fell and bust my behind. I started screaming, crying. I felt my leg was broken, my hip, I couldn't move. My husband's trying to comfort me, and I'm like, get off me. I mean, I'm just hysterical because I'm embarrassed, first of all.
So you saw this, Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes, sir.
embarrassed, I'm in pain. The only thing I didn't hit was my head, which I'm glad.
So, Mr. Hickman, this conga line, your waitresses and waiters having a good time with the patrons, is that what you expect them to do?
Yeah, I mean, they come around, and if people are having a good time, they tell them to get up and get in the conga line. It's just part of our fun atmosphere.
So you've seen conga lines in your place before?
Absolutely, and we've never had an incident.
How'd you know that Miss Richardson was hurt?
Well, I was working the register, and I heard this shrieking scream. I turned around, and my waitress was running over to her. I saw that it was her on the ground, and I called 911 as soon as I could to get her help.
Did you know how she got down there to the floor?
No, I just heard a scream, and we just wanted to help
You
her.
should have came over to me. You're the owner.
I was on the phone with 911. So I had to talk to them for a while, so I couldn't run over
You had a
and
cordless
be
phone.
your
You coulda
aide
came over
because
to
I'm
me.
on the phone
Yes, you
with
coulda-
your help.
Everybody
What did
has
you-
a cell phone.
I have
you
a
coulda
heart.
came-
Miss Richardson.
You could have came to me.
Address your comments to me. Let me get to
Okay,
this
sorry,
thing. I know
sorry,
this is
Your Honor.
important to you.
I'm just
You all rigged up there. I understand.
Peanuts are a staple of our restaurant, okay? People go nuts for our nuts. That's our slogan.
You see shells all over the floor. The conga line starts, and that's
And I
when
hit the
disaster
floor.
begins.
And not only did I fall, when I fell, I'm down on the floor, and I see not only are there shells on the floor, there's nuts down there too.
Okay.
Do you know what peanut oil can do to the floor? It makes things very
That's
greasy.
what you came for.
I didn't
That's
come
what
for nuts.
Mr.
I came
Hickman,
for the food.
Mr. Hickman, how is it that peanuts get on the floor? Aren't people supposed to eat the meat and throw the shells on the floor?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
is
so
there-
the shells are on the ground, not the peanuts.
Peanuts on the ground.
the peanuts being on the floor creates at least a
Oil.
different picture, right?
Yes.
Yes, but usually it's shells, it's not peanuts. So
Well,
it's not that much oil.
Somebody
And-
comes
and
into your
after-
restaurant, they fall, they get hurt. How's that not your fault? It's your place.
Thank
your
you.
nuts, your shells.
She knew the risks before coming there. She toured the place and said she wanted to book it there.
But it wasn't that
so
many
she
nuts
was
on the
satisfied.
floor.
I thought, great, another happy
No.
customer. She even remarked, Your Honor, when she came and toured the restaurant, she remarked how much she
This is
loved the place and
this
how
is
much her
before the
friends,
party.
correct, and how much her friends were going to love it too.
Right, because it was a
okay.
Do you
casual-
remember that?
Yes.
Did the floor look like that?
No.
She came during lunch. It wasn't
No.
as bad as that.
No.
Okay.
See,
There were
thank you.
clearly there were shells, discarded shells on the ground.
Had I known it was going to be like that, I would have worn different shoes.
Now,
What? People go nuts for our nuts? What did you think that meant?
Well,
That
what
they
did
just like
Miss-
nuts.
Miss Richardson?
They like crazy people. I knew they
Who
were.
wears open-toed shoes? Why not
Mr. Hickman,
flats? Or-
Mr.
It
Hickman,
didn't match my outfit. Come on.
order in this court.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Order in this court.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You guys got to talk to me.
I'm sorry, Your
If
Honor.
you want her to make the decision, keep talking to her. I got to figure this out.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry, Your Honor.
So you slip
Right, I slipped
and
on
you
some
hit the
nuts.
floor. When did
Broke
you
my
know
hip.
that your shoulder was badly hurt?
Not only my shoulder, I have a broken hip. So my whole life has changed. I retired after 30 years. My husband and I have plans.
So you
to
hurt your
travel.
hip?
I have a broken
You hurt
hip.
your shoulder?
My shoulder, my knee.
Your
the only thing
knee?
that didn't hurt was my head.
And you got $125,000 in past medical expenses.
Yes, because my husband has to take me to physical therapy every other day. I'm retired. I was supposed to travel.
Yes, ma'am.
We have no quality of life anymore.
I see from your medicals that you tore your rotator cuff.
Yes.
Okay, how's that been?
It's not good. As you can see, as from my pictures, I was a traveler. I ride
Is that
elephants.
you on an
That's me
elephant?
on an elephant, yes. Which
Okay.
I can't do anymore. I ride elephants, I skate, I dance, I do all of these things, which my
You're very
quality of
active.
life is no longer. I'm depressed. I mean, I stay in the bed. He has to help me get dressed in the morning.
I see that you're asking this court for $200,000 for pain and suffering. Tell me about that.
Well, because I can no longer do the things I enjoy, I don't take care of my family anymore. I can't cook, I can't clean, I can barely dress.
How do you fix your hair?
My husband, it's a wig. He know how to put a wig on now. He's learned. Okay?
So, Mr. Richardson, you've been standing in the gap for your wife, right?
There ain't no question, Your Honor.
Tell me how this has affected you all's relationship.
My wife is depressed. She's not happy anymore. She was an outgoing person before. She used to like to travel. She used to like to go places and do things. She doesn't like to do that anymore. It's hard for her to get in the bed. It's hard for her to get out the bed.
Mr. Hickman, you see this is a big deal, right?
It's unfortunate that we're here under these circumstances and that you injured yourself, and I am sorry for that. But, you know...
Are you really sorry?
That's the first time he's ever said that, too.
Is it?
Yes.
How long have you owned this place?
16 years, Your Honor.
Did anyone ever tell you that they didn't go crazy for your nuts?
I did.
No. It's not my fault, okay? Her party was the main party eating the peanuts and throwing them on the ground.
No, we were not.
So clearly that's
so
what
there
we
are
were
other,
not.
there are other people.
We were not.
There are other people.
You were.
No, we weren't.
You actually had
Order in
to
this
call me-
court.
We were
Now,
not,
I've
Your
said
Honor.
it one other time that you ought to address me. Mr.
Nobody
Richardson,
ever
did you
cleaned.
see anybody in your party throwing shells on the floor? You had to,
Yes, Your Honor.
right?
I did.
Everybody was throwing shells on the floor.
All of your entire party, their entire party were joining in the atmosphere fun with the peanuts.
'Cause that's
eating them,
part of the
throwing them.
good time.
That's what we do.
But it was just,
Right?
if it was just the shells, Your Honor, then it would be a different story. But there were peanuts. When I hit the ground, there were peanuts on the ground also.
I brought an exhibit to show you today.
All right. Go on over and
And
show
Your Honor,
me.
before he does that, they should have receptacles for the nuts to go into.
But then it wouldn't be the same place. It would be a YMCA.
Your Honor, I'm stepping on these peanuts and you can see how slippery it is. And it's not necessarily so much the peanut
Now
shell.
step on those nuts again. I want to see that. And you did that well. And you
Before
did
you-
submit a video
I
to the
submitted
court.
a video for you to let you know that about 5 minutes time how much oil is left over from these peanut shells and peanuts on the floor.
Okay, let's take a peek at it.
So if I take this shoe and I crush these shells, I'm going to give it about 5 minutes, and you'll see this paper will be soaking wet with oil just from the residue and the peanuts. It's been 5 minutes, Your Honor. As you can see, this floor
Look at
is
it.
oily from the residue and the peanuts. They're responsible for this. This is what caused my wife to fall. This is what caused her to hurt herself.
So, Mr. Hickman, you see all that oil on that butcher paper?
I do.
That could make somebody slip, though, huh?
It could,
Yes.
but with the material on the floor, it doesn't make it that slippery.
There have been conga lines before at your place,
Every night, yes.
and people just go all around snaking around the restaurant.
And she was actually being loud and disorderly, and we
I
had to
was
calm
not
her
loud,
down.
disorderly.
She was being
I was
loud and
laughing.
disorderly.
She was dancing on the peanut shells, and,
Put a little
and we had
rhythm
to
in it
keep
if
the
you know
walkway
the-
clear,
put a little
so we
rhythm.
had a server come over and tell her, and she goes, I'm the one paying for the party.
I was.
So, Miss Richardson,
Well,
I was paying for the party, and now he's going to pay for what has happened to me. This injury, I mean,
do you have to wear that brace
Yes.
all the time?
Yes, I do.
What happens when you go to sleep at night?
I sleep like this. So can you imagine? I kick him out the bed because we have a king-size bed. He has to sleep in the guest room. He can't enjoy me anymore. I mean, my life is over with him. But thank God he's a good man. He takes care of me.
He
has
seems like a
eight-
good man.
He is. He is.
Now, Mr. Richardson, you heard Mr. Hickman talk about how she was up dancing, having a good time. She was dancing, having a good time, right?
She was supposed to be dancing and having a good
After
time.
30 years?
It's not right. It wasn't, like I said, again, it was the oil
She was
from all
wearing
those
high
peanuts
heels,
on the floor
Your Honor.
that caused her to slip.
Open-toed high heels.
If water was
And
spilled
she
on
wore
the floor...
high heels and open-toed shoes.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
To a country theme bar. Maybe something a little more appropriate.
Because
Flats
it
or,
matched
say,
my
boots.
outfit. It matched my outfit, I'm sorry.
Somebody's gonna go to jail today.
Nope.
Address your comments to me. Y'all are making me nuts. Mr. Hickman, you mentioned that she was wearing high-heeled shoes. Don't many people come in? I mean, women wear high-heeled shoes, right?
Yes.
And they probably have done it, and everything's fine. So when she wears these, apparently these aren't appropriate for her, but, you know, she wasn't even worried about the nuts because she was dancing on top of the nuts.
Now, Miss Richardson, your husband crushed those shells on the video with a high-heeled shoe. Is that the kind of shoe you had on?
It's almost the same shoe, except those were my black ones, which I
Okay.
can no longer wear anymore. All of my heels I cannot wear
Because of
anymore.
your hip injury?
Yes. I have to wear little flat shoes now.
I think I've heard enough. I think I'm ready to render my decision. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, that is you all, the Richardsons, you have to prove that the defendant committed a wrong, that Mr. Hickman committed a wrong, that his wrong caused your injuries. You have proven today that there were peanuts on the floor, that there was oil on that floor, that there were shells on that floor, and that a waitress allowed you to, or encouraged you to come and do a conga line. You did the conga line, you slipped and fell, and had a terrible retirement experience.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hickman, you run a restaurant that people throw peanuts and shells on the floor. She should have known this. That's why she booked the place, because of that shtick. This had never happened to you before, and frankly, you've been making the point that it's obvious. People are here for our nuts.
People go nuts for our nuts, Your Honor.
Under the law, I've got to consider everybody's responsibility. But here's the problem. Your waitress started a conga line, and that's what tips the scales. Here, I find that you are partially responsible for your injuries, but I'm going to find in your favor only because your waitress was involved. Mrs. Richardson, I find that you are 49% responsible for your injuries. You are suing for $325,000. 51% of that is $165,750. I'm making that award in that amount to you, taking into account your partial responsibilities for your injuries. I find in your favor in the amount of $165,750. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Andrew Finkelstein has to say.
Two things stand out in this verdict. First, the defendant's employee started this incident when she encouraged the conga line. The employer is responsible for the negligent acts of the employee when those actions are done in the course of their employment. Second, the waitress should have been cleaning the floor instead of starting a party. The restaurant knew that the shells and crushed peanuts could make the floor dangerous, but failed to remove the hazard.
Your Honor, this is nuts. I didn't do anything wrong. This is gonna close.
Sir, you don't get to talk to me like that in my courtroom. Matt, get him out of here. Get him out of here, Matt.
Bye-bye.